You know, there's a saying here on the Shooting Cars YouTube channel that if you can see my legs, I probably have something important to say. And that could never be more true than today. With the upload of this video, I have now released, filmed, and published 1,000 car reviews. That's right, this 2007 Pontiac G6 is my 1,000th car review. I had many awesome options for the 1,000th video, but this was the only right answer, and I'm excited to share with you why. From the bottom of my heart, if you take nothing away from this video, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has liked, commented, subscribed, or just flat out viewed my videos. Without you guys, I never would have made it past 10 car reviews, past 50 car reviews, let alone 1,000 car reviews. And so, without any further ado, let's talk about the almighty, the sensational, the beautiful 2007 Pontiac G6. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2007 Pontiac G6 GT. Up front is a 3.9 liter V6, and down below is a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this here G6 for a couple of reasons, but mainly the fact that it is the V6 manual, which was pretty rare in its era as it is, but also my very first car was a 2007 Pontiac G6. Now that had the 4-speed auto and 4-cylinder, but this entire video is going to be an absolute tsunami of nostalgia for me. But before we get on to anything, turkey! It's like a big turkey. He's just running. Welcome to Illinois. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise when it becomes available. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you get a video of your car just like this one. And you could read my behind-the-scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 3.9 liter V6 under the hood, making 240 horsepower. Now, that's actually a unique number because if you got this engine with the automatic transmission, it actually only made 227 horsepower. So you actually got a 13 horsepower bump just for opting for the manual. And that's what I like to see. Now, there were other engines offered in the G6. Of course, the base model did come with a 2.4 liter inline 4, part of the Ecotec family. And then there was also a 3.6 liter offered that was actually a dual overhead cam engine and made around 250 horsepower. So the 3.9 wasn't the most powerful engine ever offered in the G6, but it's a pretty big one. It's almost a 4 liter V6. That's pretty honkin' big. Now, like I said, paired to it is that 6-speed manual transmission. Now, this transmission was actually developed by GM of Europe for the Saab 9-3 and later used in a bunch of Opels and other European products. In the mid-2000s, we were starting to phase manual transmissions out of normal cars here in America, so GM went to Europe to source this one. From what the owner and I could find online, there was around 3,000 of these made with the V6 and the manual. However, numbers are going to vary depending on who you ask, but the overall point is that they made very few of these, and so it makes that cool to be driving one. Last but not least, of course, the G6 is front-wheel drive, and they only ever came front-wheel drive. So how does it drive? What's it like to drive a manual V6 Pontiac G6? Well, it's a heck of a lot better than the 4-cylinder, I can promise you that. It does feel kind of heavy. I always forget that the G6 is nearly a full-size sedan. It actually rides on the Malibu platform. It's big. It's not as small and nimble as you would think just looking at it. The steering is a little heavy, and the transmission, the shifter's a little bit clunky, but that's what I would expect out of an American car and really a European car of this caliber as well. However, that being said, it is really fun to row my own gears here in the G6. And although I'm not really in love with the switch gear, I'm happy it exists. I am. I really am. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. In front of me, I have 4 gauges. I'm laughing because this brings back so much nostalgia right away. Off to the left is the tachometer, in the center is the speedometer, and off to the right is the coolant temperature and fuel. I love these gauges. They're plain and simple, and they light up red at night, which I think is a nice little Pontiac touch. On the steering wheel, on the left, I have my cruise control options, and off to the right, I have my radio options. So, of course, skip track, volume, and then my favorites, I can cycle 1 through 6. The steering wheel is shared with the C6 Corvette. It's shared with a bunch of other GM products. This is just a GM parts bin steering wheel, and so for me, it's funny to see it in so many different vehicles that I drive, but also I like it. Off to the left, I have a climate control vent and the gauge dimmer switch. And on the door, I have my lock and unlock up top, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving into the center, I get 2 climate control vents as well, and the hazard switch. Then I do have an aftermarket radio because these radios in these cars were not very good, so you gotta swap out the radio if you wanna listen to anything modern. One thing that's really interesting about the transmission is that you have to shift it into reverse in order to remove the key from the key slot. I've never seen this in a car. Is this a European thing? I don't know, but it's very, very interesting. You have to put it into reverse before you can pull the key out. Safety mechanism for sure, but just something I haven't really dealt with before. And then we have the climate controls. I love the knobs on the climate controls, although they fall off really easily. I think I went through 3 of them in my ownership, but they have a really nice feeling. I don't get dual zone or even automatic climate controls, but they work well and I'm not complaining at all. Then I do have a 12-volt outlet and my traction control button, as well as a little cubby off to the left that perfectly fits your cell phone. And then we have the shifter itself. The shifter feels like most other GM shifters. The chrome shift knob is somewhat flaking and not of the best quality, and the shift boot has seen better days for 125,000 miles. But overall, it looks presentable, and it's just cool seeing a manual transmission in a Pontiac G6. Off to the right, I do have the handbrake, and then I do get cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the 2007 Pontiac G6 GT. And normally there is like a liner that's easily cleanable, but everyone takes them out and everyone loses them. So this doesn't have the liner in it. And when the liner's removed, I am happy to report that it does in fact pass the big friggin' bottle test. Then we do get a center console and the seats. The seats do have decent sporty bolsters to them. I am pleasantly surprised by how well they're gripping me. I do wish it said GT on them or something a little special. However, beggars can't be choosers. Speaking of seats, however, we do have back seats, even though this is the Coupe. So let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2007 Pontiac G6 GT Coupe. And a couple of things to note. First of all, headroom. My head's hitting the ceiling. Knee room is actually great. My seat has moved up a little bit further, but honestly, moved back, I still have a couple of inches of space between my knee and the seat. So knee room is actually not so bad. However, I do want to say that I personally had the 4-door sedan, and the back seat was so big in that G6. So if you really value backseat space and you're in the market to buy a G6, I would highly, highly recommend searching out the sedan. However, I do get cup holders here in the center, so it is a 2+2 and not a full rear seat, so I don't get a middle seat or middle seat belt. I do also get little fold-out cup holders back here because what I would assume is that this center console is shared with the sedan, and the sedan didn't have cup holders in the back besides these 2 that folded down. So the Coupe just doubles up on the cup holders, I guess. Overall, not a bad back area. If I sort of tilt my head a little weird, it's fine, it's manageable, but I wouldn't really want to sit back here for too long. However, speaking of space, let's go hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the G6 GT Coupe, and I do have a trunk release button here on the key fob, and then you just come in here and pick it up. Now, you do get tons of trunk space. This is very, very similar to the sedan's trunk space. This liner is so cheap, but so great, and I love it very, very much. I don't get any crazy amenities back here or anything like that. You do get a pull-up spare tire, which is pretty nice, but other than that, nothing too crazy to report about the trunk space of a Pontiac G6 GT Coupe. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this is plain and simple the most macaroni styling I've ever probably talked about here on the channel. Macaroni styling is a term I coined that describes a car that isn't outwardly pretty kind of mushy, kind of rounded around the edges. Probably won't win any design contest awards, but it's a vehicle that I also love because I have rich nostalgia. Much like eating a warm bowl of Kraft mac and cheese when I was a kid, looking at these cars gives me nostalgia and happiness. And of course, because I owned one for so much of my life, looking at this car, I can't help but feel nostalgic and happy, just even looking at the front end. So that to me is super, super special. I will say, not the biggest fan of the Coupe. I think the doors are a little too long. I actually don't think they're a little too long. I think they're way too long. I think it kind of looks like a dead fish on the side. I'm not happy about it from that angle. And the rear end of the Coupe is completely different than the rear end of the sedan. They didn't just delete a door in between. The rear end is completely different than the sedan G6. So just a couple of things to note. If you're like, oh, I'll just buy Coupe taillights to save some money, well, they're actually completely different. But with all of that out of the way, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving a manual V6 Pontiac G6? I'll save my nostalgia rant for later. How does this car actually drive as an automobile? Well, you have to remember that the G6 was one of the last vehicles ever produced by Pontiac. In 2010, they made a handful before they closed their doors. Up until then, Pontiac had always had this sort of fun, love, and feel about them. With their supercharged coupes in the late 90s, I'll show some of their greatest hits here that I've driven, and it's hard to deny they're fun, enjoyable cars that didn't always break the bank. You know, the original GTO was a Pontiac Tempest that they souped up. It wasn't this crazy multi-million dollar, only the elite can own it. It was a fun car that idiots like us could own. And that's how I feel about this G6. I think they do capture that a little bit. The V6 is powerful, it's torquey. It's not gonna blow the doors off a Lamborghini, no. Course not. But it does offer a fun, exhilarating drive. Yeah, the manual transmission isn't the best I've ever felt, but it's a manual. I get to row up and down the gears all day long, shifting, having fun. And these cars don't break the bank. That's the glory of this. But at the end of the day, it is an older Pontiac. It's not gonna get you any street cred telling people that you will drive a G6. They'll probably sing that Far East Movement song right back at you. But to me, that's okay. Because yeah, on paper, a Pontiac G6 isn't that flashy. It's not that interesting. But sometimes it's not necessarily about the car itself. It's what the car can do for you. As mentioned at the top of the video, I owned a 2007 Pontiac G6. And without that car, I wouldn't be here today. I started my YouTube channel with that car, going around, driving all around Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, filming cars at a deficit. I was losing money hand over fist. And so I didn't have the luxury of buying a nice car to get me around. I had a hand-me-down from my parents, and I had to make it work. But through that car, I went on my first road trip down to Lexington, Kentucky to see a friend that I so dearly missed. Through that car, I took my girlfriend out on our first date, and now we've been happily together for 7 years. That car was there for me day in and day out. It always started. Yes, it always also had a check engine light on, but I think that's just a factory installed feature. And so driving this car, I don't know if there's one more important. I had so many options for my 1000th review, but the only real answer was to drive another G6. The first review I ever published here on YouTube was my own 2007 Pontiac G6. And I thought it was only fitting that 999 videos later, it too be a G6. This car to me is a warm hug. It's a grilled cheese with tomato soup. It's pulling the crinkled paper out of a pair of brand new shoes. It's peeling the screen protector off a brand new electronic device. It's the handwritten letter from my best friend written in light blue fountain pen ink. This is my first time finding diamond in Minecraft. It's all of the tie-dye shirts that I wore so many times that there's holes in the neck. This is the Halo 3 menu music. This is Black Ice air fresheners. This is Speedway gas station 99-cent Slurpees. This is the smell of new school supplies. This is, quite frankly, home. No matter how far you move or where you go in life, there's always somewhere, some place that harkens you back. Even if you're a military kid and you've had 31 addresses, there's always one that felt special, one that you just can't shake out of your head. You never forget your first love, and you also never forget your first tough lesson. And so today, I no longer have my G6. I drove it up until 197,000 miles, and I sold it to get something more modern, something safer, something better suited for my needs. But I will never, ever forget my Pontiac G6. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Gordon for reaching out. I was trying to find a G6 so desperately for my 1000th review, and Gordon just happened to email me one night, which was absolutely amazing. I cannot thank him enough for finding the time for me to review this before he goes away, and I cannot thank you enough for 1000 car reviews here on the Shooting Cars YouTube channel. I wake up every day excited, knowing that I get to do what I love to do, and that would not have been possible without all of you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, and here's to 1,000 more. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.